interesting thing is that people who make it big, usually they have out of the box ideas and they have ideas that nobody else is doing.
Sometimes you have to recalibrate and take a step back and say, is that really what's going on? Is that really true?
Jim Rohn used to say, you're an average of the five closest people to you.
The definition of a positive mindset doesn't mean can just
Doesn't mean the
ignore.
problems are going to go away.
Exactly.
Get Jill the wisdom for your will.
Shalom Aleichem, Harav Reb Shalom.
Reb Chaim, always good to see you.
Same here. Something very interesting I wanted to discuss with you. I don't know did you see the news that Trump wants to get away with the pennies?
Yes, yes.
What did you think about that?
It's funny. The first thing that triggered in my mind was that Chazal seemed to have valued, and maybe pennies, whatever it's called, pruta or pruta mitzterefis. Chazal, there's a mila, there's a value in recognizing that even a penny is worth something.
Yeah,
And
but
that
try to
those
think
pennies
from
are,
Trump's perspective. Each penny costs about 2 cents for the government to manufacture. So
I
why should they do
understand.
it?
I understand the cheshbon.
And then
All
pruta. Who
I'm
said a
saying is
penny means a pruta? Maybe they should do a half a penny for a pruta.
maybe
When they did
maybe not.
pennies, a penny when it came out was worth more than a nickel today.
100%. I'm not arguing. All I'm saying is that we do have to also recognize that there is value in even the smallest denomination, even the smallest thing that we do. There's value, and we shouldn't always aim for the bigger. That was, you asked me what my
No,
thoughts were.
but tell
That's
me,
what triggered my
explain to
mind.
me when you say value, what do you mean? The value in doing it or in the value of not doing it? Because I can see two values. I think what I'm hearing you say is that people should have the opportunity to save a penny, therefore it should still be out there. I think that's what you say. Am I correct assuming
That
that?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
But
Yes.
but I think I can take exactly your words and put it on the other way and say that because of the importance of a penny, you should not manufacture penny because it costs the government and the taxpayers so much
Too
as
much.
2 cents for every penny.
That's fair. Okay, so then perhaps what I mean to say is that if we get rid of the penny, then the nickel or the dime or the quarter should be something that we value as because it's the smallest
Absolutely.
denomination.
In
It
Israel,
makes
I
no
think that the,
difference.
the smallest currency is 10 agorot, right?
Right,
Which is
right.
like, I don't know, 3, 4 cents.
Okay.
And I always thought about, why in Israel the smallest currency is like 3, 4 cents, and in America the smallest currency is 1 cent.
Right,
It's not even
right.
playing field, but I think now it's going to be more even. This is 5 cents, 10
No,
abroad. It's going to be more even.
right. I think what I'm getting at is kind of like what you had mentioned, the whole compound interest idea. We don't recognize that if the one you start with 1 cent to one penny, what it can turn into. I think that's kind of theoretically what I'm getting at. But having said that, what are your thoughts? There's a lot of schemes out there today where you can invest $5 a month, $5 or whatever, just a few dollars, just do it, and
I
don't
want to
think
say
about it. What are
something
your
before
thoughts
we
on
go
that?
there. Remember to bring it back. I brought up this subject with the penny because I thought about a crazy investment idea. I want to hear what you think about it. First of all, let me make a disclaimer. We're not giving any investment advice for anybody. Everybody should consult their own financial planners. But I thought about a crazy investment idea, and I wanna hear what you think about it. Maybe some people will take it and take it away from you. No, nobody can take away anything from you. Go take it. It's okay. I want to hear what you think about it. I want to take as much money as possible and buy as much pennies as possible with it. So
Uh-huh.
let's say if I can take $1 million and buy $1 million worth of pennies, so that means I have 100 million pennies, right?
Okay.
And I'm very secured with my investment because the value is there. It's worth at least a penny, right?
Right.
So I have $100 million in value. It's not like I take a risk, maybe I'll lose it. I have a hundred
Right.
million
No,
dollars in value.
it's in
And
Fort Knox. Okay.
and then a few years down the road, I don't know, 10 years or whenever it's gonna happen, whenever it's gonna be, I'm gonna try to sell it for 2 cents a penny. because it's going to be like an antique. And as long as it's not selling, I have the asset. Like I have it. I don't know. And I don't know when it's going to be worth more. I don't know if it's going to be worth 2 pennies, maybe a penny and a half. I don't know. So imagine I take $1 million and I make it to 1.5 million or $2 million without any downside risk. What do you think about it?
In theory, it sounds fantastic, but is there not a risk that by getting rid of the penny, then 10 years down the road, no one's going to be interested in even buying that because it
It's
just has
always
no
going to be
value?
worth a penny.
Is it? Is it though? If the penny doesn't
Of
exist anymore, who
course,
says
of
worth a
course.
penny?
I mean, if nobody wants to take it, then I send it to the Federal, what's called the Federal Reserve.
But will they take it back? They got
Of
rid of
course, they'll
them.
take it back. Of course. You know, once I tell you an interesting story I had a few years ago. I I was in Israel, and then I had a guy, a cousin of mine, who approached me and said, "Chaim, can you help me? I have $3,000 in cash, $100 bills, $3,000, and it was in a house that burned down. And I have, this small box with $100 bills and ash. You could recognize it's $100 bill, but every bill was either ripped in half or burned three-quarters of it. It looked like you couldn't hold it with your hand because it's gonna become zerbrechelt, how you say,
Broken, yeah, or it'll
broken.
disintegrate, yeah,
Can you help me?
disintegrate.
I said, I have no idea. What do I do with it? He said, you don't have somebody in America. You go back to America. I still live then in New York. You go back to New York, take it with you, ask somebody. Okay, listen, I'll try my best. Give it to me. Let me see if I can do something. And then I came back. It was sitting in my home for, I think, 2 or 3 years. I didn't do anything. I didn't know what to do. Then he calls me, Chaim, do you remember a few years ago I gave you blah, blah, blah. Did you do anything? You still have it? I said, yeah, I still have it. What can I do? I don't know. Look around. Ask. Anyway, so I started Googling. Back then, Google was still alive. I think now let's just say I AI'd it, but
You AI'd
I
it,
started
yeah.
Googling it. Yeah, somebody just told me that Google is gonna be like a few years, Google's gonna be like the Yellow Pages. You remember the Yellow Pages?
I remember, yeah.
Every time we want a number, you took out this big, huge Yellow Pages.
Huge
We
book,
used it
yes.
once a year. We had like three Yellow Pages arrive to our house, and we took
Uh,
it and we based. I think if we wanted to level the bed, this is what we put underneath. You remember those days?
I absolutely remember yeah, sure I do. The old
So
phone book,
one day
sure.
Google is going to be like the Yellow Pages today.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started Googling it, and I found this address and this whatever, some resources. What do you do with, how do you call it, multi-layered currency, something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
What does multi-layered mean?
Multi-layered means many layers, one on top of the other.
Not multi-layered, multi-layered,
Mutilated.
mutilated. What does
Mutilated
mutilated
means
mean?
something that's like all been messed up. Imagine taking a piece of bread and just squishing it. You're
Okay.
mutilating it.
You see, I had this word somewhere in my memory from back then, but it's mutilated is not a word that you use every day, so it's not something. I told you I didn't know English until I was 19 years old, you know?
Yes, well, you're not doing too bad. Okay.
So mutilated was not one of the words that was sitting in my memory. So I
Yeah.
remember I saw the word MULIA. I didn't.
Mutia, yeah.
Okay,
Or
anyway, so I
TI.
found this place. What do you do with mutilated money? I'm gonna try to use the word mutilated a lot now because I want to try to remember it. I'm gonna use this opportunity for an English speaking session also. So I Googled it and I found this place that you can say send me mutilated money with UPS with the whole instructions. Anyway, make a long story short, I think 2 or 3 months later, I got a check for $3,000.
Wow. Wow.
And I called this guy. He was so happy. He was so happy. And I think he wanted to open a business in Israel to advertise whoever has mutilated money should come to him. He's gonna charge 50% and he's gonna give them the money for it. I told them be very careful because once you're gonna get to a certain level, it's gonna start the whole anti-money laundering and the whole
Right.
where do you get all, how do you how did you get in so many burdened houses? What what's going on with you? But anyway, but I think because of that, I think that if you send $1 million of pennies to the Federal Reserve, you,
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So there is absolutely no risk involved. Okay. So you're
I'm not
asking what
saying
my thoughts.
absolutely no risk. I mean, it could be risk because it's going to cost you a lot of rent. You have to storage 1 million pennies. No, a million
Yeah.
dollar pennies. It's like 100 million pennies. I don't know how
Right.
much storage it takes. Maybe you have to pay rent for another room that you wouldn't use otherwise. I don't know, whatever. But the concept, I'm thinking because what made me think of this? Because this morning I'm telling my wife the news that I read somewhere that Trump with the pennies with everything, and she said, "Oh, okay, so we have to make sure that we get rid of our pennies now." And I said, "No, just the opposite. Now you have to start saving your pennies."
Right.
And
Right.
Hanukkah 2045, of course, and it's just through with Mashiach. You're going to be sitting by the Hanukkah party with your family, and you're going to be looking for something to give to them. And okay, I can give them pennies. I'll tell them, remember, I don't know if you remember, kids, 20 years ago, there was something
Just
called pennies.
think of what a fantastic fundraising opportunity this is. If a Moisad was to say that if everybody was to bring a penny and asked all their friends and neighbors to just send a penny to this Moisad, you can get thousands and thousands of pennies. How, and people are be willing to get rid of them because they're not going to be valuable anymore.
You think people would want to get rid of it? Why should they? My wife told me the same thing. I think we should get rid of it. Why? I think you should just save it now. The value is not going to go away.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. So okay,
I don't know. I
so
gave you the idea. Do with it whatever you want. Just remember that I gave it to you.
and don't undervalue what a penny is worth.
Right. I
Don't
think
just
that's the real meaning of Pruta Lepruta Mitzarefes.
don't yeah, just because it's getting outdated or they're getting rid of it doesn't mean it's not valuable.
Right.
Everything is
So
valuable.
here's the thing. I read somewhere, I don't know, a few months ago, I heard on a podcast, I think. I heard on a podcast also a guy that likes to think about out of the box investment ideas. And he was saying, true story, he was saying that he invests like millions of dollars into nickels. And why nickels? Because he read somewhere, he made some research, and he read that every nickel that the US Treasury Department is producing, it costs them, I don't know, more than a nickel. I don't know if it's 10 cents or less, or it costs them more than a nickel to produce a nickel.
Mhm.
So he thought it's the best investment they can make because every nickel that you have in your pocket is worth more than a nickel.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
so one day and it's a risk-free investment because it's all the value of the nickel is there. You can get rid of it for a nickel all that anytime you want. And at the same time, one day he thinks they're probably gonna stop manufacturing it because it's
So
so he
so
has an
why is
investment of
no
the nickels.
why is nobody else caught on to this idea?
What do you think?
They don't know it. People don't think about it. They don't know about
What do you
it.
mean? I heard it on a podcast that has millions of subscribers.
So what's the answer? Why don't people invest like that?
I think people are only investing where others are investing. I think people are, if I'm the only person doing it, it can't be, it's good. They don't trust themselves. And also,
Mhm.
people don't have the long-term vision. I don't know. Honestly speaking, I don't know. But it's the interesting thing. This is a very successful guy who said that. The interesting thing is that people who make it big, usually they have out-of-the-box ideas and they have ideas that nobody else is doing. For most people, that fact alone that nobody else is doing it is a good enough reason not to do it.
Okay.
Would
So
you agree
being
with
an
me?
I think so, and I think that's true in a lot of areas of life. So being an out of box advisor like you are,
No, I'm
What
not. I'm
what
not gonna. Don't make it that. Nobody is gonna come to me for advice. I'm not gonna tell anybody go invest in nickels.
no. Okay, so take it away from the financial investment, but there's the side that you're touching on over here that I think is very worthwhile. We don't always have to look to see what other people are doing in order to make a decision about what we're going to do. I think there's a tremendous
Absolutely,
limit
it's
in
just the
that.
opposite. And you know, I remember a few months ago, I was in an airport. I don't remember which airport. I remember there was a huge escalator, like probably 2 or 3 flights up together. You're like
Yeah.
very high escalator. And I remember that I had to go up, and then we came like this. We came from this side, and we had to turn around and go up on this escalator.
Okay.
And there was 2 escalators going up. In a
Right.
way, in a way that when you come from here, you don't see the second one. You only see the first one.
Right.
So you turn around. Let's say you come from the left side. You make a sharp right turn up to the escalator, but you can make a sharp right turn to one escalator and then to the next escalator. Everybody
Right.
was going on the first one,
The first one. Right.
and nobody was going on the second one.
Right.
Nobody. And it was empty. And you had to spend like 2 minutes on the escalator because it was going a very, probably 2 or 3 flights up.
Right.
And I was looking in the beginning, I thought to myself, probably the other one is coming down and this one is going up. But then I'm looking and I see both are going up. I couldn't understand. And I was a little bit in a rush. So I wanted to walk up while I was on the escalator. And I'm thinking, if I go up on this escalator where everybody's going, I'm not going to be able to walk because it was jam-packed with people. If I go on the next one, I'm going to be able to party for myself, walk up as fast as you want. So I went to the
Right.
second one, and it was fascinating. Nobody did that. Nobody. The whole time I was thinking I'm probably missing something,
Right.
and I was missing nothing.
Well, you see that often when you go through tolls. Everybody goes to one lane and doesn't even think about going into the other lane, and there's always a lane or two open. But I want to just expand that point because it's interesting. I'm right now reading a book that addresses the whole happiness movement, where everything is positive thinking movement. Everything is positive thinking, and and you've got huge campaigns and hundreds of millions of dollars being invested into the whole positive thinking industry. And this book is talking about studies that have been done that what the studies are showing that not the positive thinking industry is really not producing that much more happier people than people who don't jump on that bandwagon. And the point of this book is that they're finding that people are more happy in the long run when they learn how to develop resilience and they learn how to uh, confront their challenges and take control over it and and develop a process of how to get through obstacles rather than just blocking anything out and saying, okay, it's all gonna be good. I'm happy, and jumping onto that bandwagon. And the part of the book is saying, so why is this industry so popular? Because everyone's doing it. So you get convinced because everyone's doing it. Well, that must mean I have to do it. But they're saying that long-term studies are showing that that's just not making people any happier. If anything, it's making them more stressed. It's making them more frustrated because we're not learning the tools of how to be resilient when we do face challenges that get us down. It was just touching on the point you're making is jumping on the bandwagon doesn't always produce the right results. And
Right.
we know this. We know this to be true, like you just explained. But it's much further. It has a much further range than catching an elevator or going through a toll. It's something that affects us, in our daily lives and our ability to move forward because there's so much out there that's being sold to us, and we get convinced that everybody's doing it, so we feel like they must be doing something right. Sometimes you have to recalibrate and take a step back and say, is that really what's going on? Is that really true? You know,
Not
And
only that, you talk about positive thinking. That's good. That Baruch Hashem, that's the issue. But you know how many people are negative and miserable just because everybody's negative and everybody's miserable? No, I'm serious. You know, when is the last time? Hashem should help. You should not have to go to Levi's. But when is the last time you went to Levaya and the person eulogizing, saying the hesped said, he was such a tzippi bracha and a person. Okay, don't talk about it. Talk about his positive stuff. And then everybody
right.
goes, "Oh, wow, that's one of the praises that he was a heartbroken person." No, you know how many people are miserable just because they think that you're miserable? I am miserable. You have pain. I'll tell you what I had. It's like a contest of pain. Yeah. You know how
Right.
many people they get negative attention, everybody has pity on them. And
Right.
Baruch Hashem, that you're talking about positive. People like to follow the crowd. That's why it's so important to be surrounded with good people. You
Right.
think you think by chance I chose you as a co-host? We need to
Yeah.
have positive people around us. Jim Rohn used to say, "You're an average of the five closest people to you."
Wow. That's interesting.
I can tell you, if you get surrounded very, very tight with negative people or people who always complain, very soon you're gonna start complaining.
Right.
If you
Listen,
tell
I
me
mean,
which shul you daven, I usually know who you are.
there's no question about that. I mean, even that's part of our Messiah is we have to surround ourselves by good people. But I think what's important to recognize is that being surrounded by positive thinking people doesn't mean that therefore I'm always going to think positively and nothing's going to ever bother me. That's a mistake to think. But being surrounded by people who are positive gives me the ability to remain positively focused when I'm indeed dealing with challenges that are going to be difficult, that are going to break me, that are going to make me, get overwhelmed and get stressed. That's going to happen. But surrounded by positive people will enable me to develop the resilience that I need to be able to move through the challenges. It
Absolutely.
doesn't
I
mean
agree.
doesn't mean that because I'm around them, all of a sudden I'm going to just say constantly, I got this. It's all good. Nothing's going to happen. Because if we convince ourselves of that and don't address the reality, we in the long term may end
Agree.
up losing a lot more.
I agree. I agree. I will also say that look what works for you. If you just heard the statistic that most people thinking positive don't blah blah blah, doesn't matter what the statistic is, doesn't mean that I have to forward in the statistic. I'm gonna be a
Right.
happy dude. If negativity makes me happy, Baruch Hashem, it doesn't. Then maybe I'll be negative. But the fact is that positivity makes me happy. I'll be positive.
Right.
You just read a statistic. I don't have to be part of that statistic. That's part of the thing. I don't have to follow the crowd. It's a very miserable crowd out there. I don't have to be part of them.
Right. Right.
Okay.
For
Anyway,
sure.
I think I like the conversation, but the point is we started with the investing. How did we get here? Oh, we started with the investing with the pennies, and we ended up
Right.
not following everybody. Just think for yourself, and this is how
Right.
we discussed this out of the box idea of the nickels and the pennies, and we ended up positive because you claiming that most people today are trying to be positive, and it doesn't always help, right?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
but don't look at everybody else. Let's look at ourselves.
But I just want to finish off. I'm not suggesting we should not have a positive mindset and we shouldn't be positive people. That's not the point. But the definition of a positive mindset doesn't mean that, I can just
Doesn't mean the
ignore
problems are going to go away.
exactly that it means that we need to face the problems and know that no matter how difficult it's going to be, I can get through this. But that doesn't mean that we define problems as being positive as well. That we recognize that Kol Ma'adav Rachmanu L'Tav Ovid, that we don't have to be Nachamish Gamzu, and we're not all Nachamish Gamzus. We can't say that this tzara itself is good. That even Rabbi Akiva couldn't say that. Rabbi Akiva had to say, I know the outcome is going to be good.
Right.
He wasn't holding, and we don't have to be Nachamish Gamzu. We can also be Rabbi Akiva.
Right.
know
And
that
you
the
can
outcome is going to be
but you
good.
can believe that because you know that Hashem is only doing things for the good. One day I'll look back maybe and I'll see how it was
It'll-
good, how it was the best. I don't
Exactly.
see how.
Exactly.
Maybe one day I'll understand and maybe not.
Right. Exactly. But we don't have positive thinking tells us this Sarah is good.
Right.
No, it's okay. It's
You-
okay
you-
to
you-
recognize
your
for
point,
what
I
it
think
is.
your point of Shalom is it's not good to live in an illusion.
Correct.
Know the
Correct.
reality, know how to deal with it, and understand
And
the
it's
pain.
gonna hurt. It can hurt, and it's gonna be difficult, and that's life. But there are tools that we can learn to enable us to navigate that.
Got it. Yeah, very good point. Okay, that's it for today.
Get Jill the wisdom for your well.